Good morning. I'm Lucy with the ARC of Northern Virginia, and I'm really excited to talk with you all today about legal authority options. We're going to really heavily focus on supported decision making, but that happens in the context of the big range of legal authority choices that are out there. So we'll go ahead and dive right in here. Today, our plan is to talk about why it's important to look at and consider a range of legal authority and what the choices are for you. Then we're going to dive into supported decision making, which is one of the key options in that range of legal authority. And we'll talk about how that works, some of the scary questions that can come along with it, and then how to really get started in using that option. And then at the end, I'm going to walk through some resources, which are just great places to learn more, dive a little bit deeper into these topics. And if you have questions, please keep them coming throughout the webinar. Always, you're welcome to reach out at the arcofnova.org/answers and to ask us a question. Those come directly to me. So to make an obvious statement, but just to get us all on the same page as we begin, anyone becomes a legal adult at the age of 18. I don't know, myself included, that I've ever known an 18-year-old who woke up the morning of their 18th birthday and was suddenly ready to perfectly make all adult decisions, right? Frontal lobes are still growing until the mid-20s. Life experiences have a big bearing on this, and of course, disability. So when we talk about folks with disabilities and all kinds of needs turning 18, talking about legal authority is a big deal since we know folks reaching that adult milestone may not yet have the ability to make all of the decisions that come with adulthood, at least not without a lot of bumps along the way. And legal authority gives you, the parent, the loved one, the whoever else, authority to step in and help them or act on their behalf, depending upon what their needs are. So there's a big range of legal authority options out there. And the way Virginia law separates it, it's really into money, like managing someone's estate, and everything else. So I'm going to break it down similarly. First, let's talk about the everything else, which I'll put in the big category of decisions. Everything from deciding if you're going to get a driver's license to deciding if you're going to rent an apartment, sign a contract, enter a relationship, all those kinds of things. So in the realm of decisions, kind of going from least restrictive to most, the least restrictive options is supported decision making, which is what it sounds like. Giving someone supports, help that they need to understand and make their choices. We'll dive into what exactly that could look like soon, but at its core, that's the concept. And I say this is something that every single person on the planet does at some point or another, right? If you think about changing jobs, often you'll talk to someone who works in a similar field, worked for that company. You'll talk to your spouse. You'll talk to your financial advisor about what you can afford to do. That's you getting help to understand and make this choice. You're getting input from folks you trust. It's a simple example to see. We all do that in some form or fashion. And for a lot of us, that gets us to where we need to be. Maybe we ask for even small decisions. Maybe we always ask. And even if it's a decision we've made before, we need a little bit more intense supported decision making, but we're all using that same tool in some form or fashion. A step up from that is a power of attorney. I really like the way that powers of attorneys can be used. My spouse and I have one for each other. They're really, really common. I had one for my mom when she had ALS, and I needed to do a lot of things on her behalf or with her. The power of attorney just gave me authority, and I'll use my mom as an example, to do things like if she wasn't able to go to the DMV to register her car as someone who was a wheelchair user, I could do that on her behalf. I could file paperwork on her behalf, or I could go with her to the doctor. I could sign in through her health portal. We could be jointly notified about things. So power of attorney really is what I jokingly call a do with document. I'll do it along with you. We're talking about it. Maybe I'm the one who goes and does the paperwork today, and maybe you do, but we're working on these things together. We can be jointly notified. We can show up to the doctor together. We can show up to the bank together. We can show up to the IEP meeting and special education together. We're doing this as a team. And if there are times you need more help, I'll help you. Moving up from there, you could move on to something with a lot more authority that's called limited guardianship, meaning you've got control over someone's rights but you carved out some areas where they have kept their rights. And so most often that happens with voting. People often say this person has lost their right to make all legal decisions, but they have the right to vote and or the right to drive a car, obviously assuming they pass the driving test, or to get married. You could preserve other rights, or you could make the guardianship cover just limited realms of life. For example, medical needs. Really, in all other areas of life, we can use powers of attorney, supported decision making. We work together, we do it together. But when it comes to the medical, my loved one's history is so big and complicated. They get so overwhelmed and shut down that on medical situations, I really have to step in and do for them. Whereas a power of attorney and supported decision making are talking about doing with someone, guardianship is doing for them. So a limited guardianship chooses what you do for the person. You have control over that solely. And full guardianship, as you can imagine, is the most intense realm of legal oversight and authority. And that really permanently removes all of someone's civil rights unless you go back to court and do a battle to get them back. And that means you make all of the person's life decisions for them, all of the legal decisions. On the money side, there's similar kind of parallels. Sort of the low level help or low level intervention on the other side would be to have a special needs trust or an ABLE account. Those both let the person with a disability save money, inherit money, keep money from paybacks, those things like that. And then you all would work together to spend it on their disability related needs. Those accounts are set up to protect that person's ability to get public services. They could still get Medicaid, Social Security, basic caregiving, things that they needed if they had money saved in those accounts. Whereas if it was in a regular bank account, they couldn't. And that account has the restriction that the money really is meant to be used for the benefit of the person with a disability. It's not meant to be used for presents for girlfriends or vacations for the whole family or those kinds of things. It's meant for the person with a disability to get what they need. And if that can control and support them with money-making decisions, that may be all that you need. If the person has income coming in each month from Social Security benefits and they'd like help to make sure, well, I got to always pay my rent or any enrollment or program fees I have, my transportation bills, money for groceries, etc., for free, you can become someone's Social Security representative payee. That means you're the person who's allowed to take that Social Security money and pay bills each month. And that, in my mind, is almost like auto pay in some ways, right? How a lot of us use auto pay to set up, think, well, I don't want to forget to do this. I want to make sure that comes out and I can see how much is left. The representative payee sort of steps into that role. They make sure those basic bills are paid, and then they look with the person about whatever money is left and how they're going to budget it throughout the month. Like with other kinds of authority, you can have the power of attorney over financial decisions. Let's say there's money outside of a special needs trust and not Social Security money. Maybe there's, I don't know, other estates or items that the person owns. You can have a power of attorney to make sure that you all can go to the bank together, talk about investing things together, work through those kinds of choices together. Or the guardianship equivalent on the money side is called conservatorship. And that really means you have full control over the person's assets and you are accountable for reporting how, not an exaggeration, every penny is spent over the course of the year. So most folks end up working with an accountant to do that. And so I show these examples to say, this is how Virginia law breaks it down, sort of money decisions and every other decision. And your family will go through a similar process to some degree. You'll have to choose, how are we going to manage money things and how are we going to manage all the other things, since they're done in slightly different ways so they can be complementary to each other. So we're going to dive now a little bit more deeply into the supported decision-making option and see what that could look like. Again, it really is just getting help to understand and make your choices. And it has such a big value in the disability community because it can change someone's capacity. It can change someone's ability to be independent. And the example I often give is that I pay the bills for our family and I manage the money for our family. But I don't do that alone. And if you put me in the room with a stranger who was going to assess whether or not I was capable of doing that, I'd probably be nervous. They wouldn't know me well. And if they sat me down with no tools and said, I want you to come up with a budget and show me every way that you're going to take care of this, I would forget stuff. If I had to do the math by hand, I would make errors. But I use supported decision making to build my capacity. I do set up things like auto pay. When every year we go through our budget, I use an Excel spreadsheet template. I talk through it with my dad, who I think is someone who has always had to live really leanly, and has done a good job at succeeding with it. We talked to the ARC of Northern Virginia's 401k or 403b, in our case, advisor about retirement benefits. I get and take their advice and expertise. So all around, family, friends, paid, unpaid people, digital tools, hard tools, I get help. And with that help, I'm able to make the decisions to manage our family's money and make sure that it gets done well. Someone else may need more help. Maybe that conversation each month is more like, here's how much you've coming in. I, as your representative payee, have paid for your rent and your regular bills using your Social Security money. What we really wanted to save up for was a trip, a laptop, a new whatever. Here's how we are with saving with that with the Special Needs Trust. What questions do you have? You're doing this along with the person. And I would say that's a great example of using supported decision making. And then they have become a significant part of understanding and making choices. They know that there's a safe place for them to say, why is this so expensive? Is there another way to do this? I wish we could save up. I wish I could use my money to do this. And engaging in those conversations, you're building their capacity to understand and, to whatever degree is possible, take part in their money management decisions. You may handle a lot of it. The Special Needs Trust and the representative payee may handle a lot of it, but supported decision making would say, sure, use those tools, use that trust, use that representative pay agreement to pay those bills. That's how that person gets support, and still they're able to be involved in their financial decisions. And we've built their capacity to do so. Whereas full conservatorship would say, we take care of all of that. We literally don't even need to discuss it with you if that's not our process. We do all of that, and this is how we want to do it. And you are not able to be included in any part of that. Again, I would say a great conservator doesn't do that. They really go above and beyond and still try and engage the person. But that really is the difference between what supported decision making is meant to be: engaging someone, meeting someone where they are, offering help and growing their abilities, versus taking that authority away completely. So supported decision making, to really hammer this home, works for anyone who doesn't have any particular disability related supports. We talked about, I'm getting a new car. I'm thinking of buying a new house. I don't know if I should break up with my boyfriend. All of this, we get advice from friends and family. We watch experts on TikTok and YouTube. All of us, right, get input on that. Very normal. Everyone in the world's using supported decision making. You sit down with your doctor and you say, I don't understand what you're telling me. Could you put this in human terms? Can I bring my spouse in? Whoa, you've just dropped a really significant diagnosis on me. I want them here so we can talk through this together. That's supported decision making. We're all doing it. Works for people who need a pretty good amount of help making choices. Maybe it's just part of your daily routine. You make checklists together to get through things each day. You call and check in. Before the person goes to spend any kind of money, they send a text to check in, or they check it against a budget you all have written out. Great. If someone really, even with a lot of supports, accommodations, working with people they know best, extra time, examples, social stories, we've thrown everything at it we can, we're still not at the point where our technology and communication have enabled us to get information into the person in an adapted way and to get answers back out that we consistently understand, then you'll probably need to pursue guardianship or conservatorship, right? That's there for those situations when really we're not successful, no matter how we try and explain things and getting that message through and getting it back out, at least with the tools that we have right now. But good guardians and good conservators still do the best they can to engage and share with that person what they're doing. As an example, as a guardian, you would have the authority to choose where someone lives, but you would ideally take that person on tours and walk them through those choices and use the indicators that you know about them to help figure out which place they liked most, and take some kind of time inventorying what's important to them, what's important for them, and matching that up, right? You're not making some objectively best decision. You are really doing everything you can to know the person and to work with them. So I say we're all using supported decision making all the time. It's important for everyone, and it's important for treating people like humans. For very, very many people with developmental disabilities, mental health needs, substance use, other kinds of disabilities, when supported decision making is done well, you are growing the skills of the person with the disability, however much as possible. You are working to empower them, and you're working as a team to build their capacity. And that's, of course, the ideal for where we would want to be, to grow everyone's capacity to the greatest possible degree and to empower them. So what could this look like? I think, again, this is the kind of helpful thing to talk through with examples. So if someone needed help managing money, what are some tools that we've looked at that they could use? Let's say they've got money that they inherited from grandma, and they've got money from an old retirement account that either they saved from their own work or that a parent left them. Then I would say maybe it makes sense to put all of that money into a special needs trust. You would sit down together with a trust team and you would write a trust plan saying, this is the purpose of this money. We expect it to last 5 years, 10 years, the person's whole life. We want it to be used on these things, but not those things. And we want these people to be able to help them to make requests to spend that money. We want these people to be able to help them submit receipts, right? You're going to set up a plan for how to do that. And in doing so, you've given them the tools they need to save and inherit that money and to manage it. Great. Let's say there's still money coming in each month from Social Security benefits, right back to that representative payee idea we mentioned. You would say, okay, well, I can be the person who works with you in the bank, and I'll pay all of the regular monthly bills, and we'll look at what's left over, and that can be your petty cash, your walking around money, your fun money, whatever else it is that you want to do with it. And there you have built out a way with supported decision making to use tools to help them manage money. What about on the medical side? I am a big fan of medical powers of attorney. The medical world is complicated. Not all doctors are amazing at explaining things in terms that everyone can understand. But beyond that, it's daunting. It's overwhelming and scary. And just last week, I was having a physical with a new doctor in my practice, and I had no underlying complaints, right? This was a low stress situation and it was a physical with a doctor. But even still, we got 98% of the way through the appointment. And I said, oh my God, I forgot to tell you there were 2 medical diagnoses that weren't on the forms. Because I wasn't prompted and I was a little bit nervous, I didn't think about them. Right? It's an example of how all of us can really struggle and get nervous in the medical realm. Another set of helping hands, eyes, ears, whatever it is, can be a big boon. So I would say a medical power of attorney is great. And you can spell out, I am allowed to go into the exam room with this person. We are allowed to jointly be notified about appointments. We're both allowed to call and ask for refills. We're both allowed to see test results. We're both allowed to log into the patient portal and download records. You set it up however you want, but a medical power of attorney is such an amazing do-with tool to make sure that person is empowered as much as they can with the doctor in the medical field, but they're getting help along the way. They're not expected to remember and do it all on their own. And that person in the room can be that patient's advocate saying, let's take a break here. I want to break this down and make sure that my husband, my loved one, my daughter is understanding. This is what the doctor was saying. It's sort of like that. Does that make sense to you? Great. A power of attorney is a wonderful tool for doing that. Something really simple that we've had some advocates talk to us about is a chart of the human body. When we talk about body parts, how they're all connected, what they feel like, where they are, something as simple as a cartoon drawing or a simple drawing of a human body as you're going through the appointment to walk and touch through. How about, is it hurting here? Is it hurting here now or ever? Or if you take this medication, these are the places you could feel it, right? To really help make that information, instead of just us having to listen to it and verbal process it all, giving us visual clues to help us walk through. It's a great supported decision-making tool. On the education front, things like, before we have an IEP meeting, can you send home a copy of the last IEP? And if the teachers already have some draft goals in mind, could you send that home so we can review it? And after the meeting, we're not going to sign today. We're going to go home, and it takes us 2 or 3 days to talk through everything with my student, but we're going to practice this at home and see if these goals really work for them before we sign, since we know once we do, we're really stuck in this IEP until a new one is created. That's a great way to just make sure the person with a disability is getting supports to engage in special education. And that doesn't have to wait until they're 18 years old or older. I would say that's a key part of the whole special education experience, and to the maximum degree, including that person. Once the student is 18, there is no mandate that the school notify parents about IEP issues, decisions, meetings, etc. Include parents in those meetings unless there's a power of attorney. I don't want to be fear-mongering here, and I would say usually schools continue to do it. Usually schools continue to include parents, whether or not there's guardianship or a power of attorney or anything, but technically they don't have to. And every once in a while we run into issues here. There's a free special education power of attorney that Virginia Department of Education themselves put out that I love. So simple. Just saying, I as parent, an adult student, want to keep working together. I'm still allowed to come. I'm still allowed to be notified. I'm still allowed to be a part of the IEP meeting. What a great tool to make sure that you all continue to be a team and to get those special education decisions done. So when we talk about supported decision-making, that really just means I'm going to come up with a plan how for in all areas of my life, I'm going to get the help I need to make my decisions. And here it looks like this, a power of attorney. And there it looks like that, a chart. And here it looks like a special needs trust or a representative payee. It's coming up with that plan, and supported decision-making really is the concept of that plan. We have a document on our website that, again, I'm an examples kind of person that walks through literally 100 ways to use supported decision-making. This is one of the 3 pages of the document. And I put these up since it covers areas beyond what we talked about, the medical, educational, and financial on the last slide, to just give you a sense that there is no limit to the ways that you can use a tool like supported decision-making when we get creative. So it can be things like someone's going to help talk to me in a developmentally appropriate way about relationships and sexual education as I get to be a little bit older, to make sure I am safe, I am protected, that I don't assume anyone who touches me is there to help me, right? That I have an understanding of what my body and my boundaries are. It can be working with a counselor to help you express your feelings. That's getting help to implement your decisions, how you're going to share those feelings, right? It can be social skills classes. That's a big part of supported decision making. I'm learning this new thing. Here are the people I trust to help me. And outside of the class, here's who I go to when I have a question. My sister, who has really great relationships with people, or my uncle, who's a really friendly guy. He's the person I check in with and say, someone said this to me. What do you think? What should I do? That's supported decision making. It's just really thinking through what are the infinite ways I can work with my team to make sure I get a sense of my choices and that I can implement my choices in ways that make sense and have value to me. We get lots of questions with things like, but what if something bad happens? And I would say, as a parent, this probably keeps all of us up at night, and there's certainly a valid question in there. I would caution away from the idea that there's some sort of legal authority or tool that in and of itself is going to protect someone from all kinds of bad things happening. I'm so sad to say, get calls each year from people at the Arc of Northern Virginia who have loved ones with significant developmental disabilities who have been abused or neglected, almost always by people in their life. A caregiver, a staff program where they worked, that drove them, a teacher, those kinds of things. Guardianship or any authority doesn't stop that. These tools are pieces of paper. Our big focus is on creating a community around someone who has eyes and ears, who are going to be looking out for the person. And a huge part of supported decision-making is saying, there's a lot of dignity that comes with letting you make small, bad decisions and learn from them. What do I mean from that? Let's go back again to all 18-year-olds or legal adults. I don't know any 18-year-olds who went off into adulthood who didn't rack up some debt, get in a bad relationship, take a bad job, skip classes when they shouldn't, drink or use substances too much. I mean, all these kinds of things that are objectively bad decisions that we think of as hallmarks of coming of age are people testing and finding those boundaries. For people with developmental disabilities, that's the same. There's a lot of important dignity that comes with trying things, learning them. Oh, you did spend all of your leftover money or any money that you had in the first week of the month, and now we're going to sit in it and we're going to learn what it's like to go for 3 weeks with no opportunity to go out with friends or to buy snacks or to go to the movies or to do those other kinds of things. We're learning from that process. And this is how we teach people, how we empower people. We say, we're trusting you. We're hearing the decisions you want to make. If it's something catastrophic and bad, of course we'd intervene. We would with someone with or without a disability, right? But we are giving you the chance to learn and to grow. And many, 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 many studies have shown over time this empowerment, this allowing people to make their own choices to whatever degree is possible, is the best thing you can do to protect them and give them a good quality of life, right? We can't bubble wrap people and keep them away from everything. I also get lots of questions about what if someone is scammed or abused, and I will give gentle reminders that it's eyes and ears and community helpers, family, friends, neighbors, good caregivers, ring cameras, etc., that protect against those kinds of things, but there aren't documents that protect against those kinds of things. It's making sure the person with a disability knows what is and isn't okay, how to communicate in whatever way makes sense to them, that something strange, weird, uncomfortable is happening, and listening to them when they do share it. So as we think about how to come up with a plan for legal authority, I would say the first thing to do is look at all of your choices, right? Here are all of the many, many ways we can tackle these life areas. And one of my favorite tools for doing that is from the ACLU. It's a document called When Do I Need Supports? And it does a lot of what we did here today in this life area: relationships, finance, education, transportation, employment, you name it. Do I need help? A simple yes or no. I would say for all of us, the answer really is a yes. All of us need help in these areas to some degree or another. What does that help look like? It's a power of attorney. It's a chart of the body. It's a representative payee. It's someone goes with me to the appointments. It's I write my questions down in advance. It's I practice ahead of time. It's I take a social skills class. It's the bajillion things that can be help. And then who helps me? In this area of life, who is it who's going to do these things with me? For a lot of us, family are a big part of that. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. But there are other people on that plan too, right? It is the doctor or the nurse practitioner at your medical office who you connect with best, who we always want to make sure we schedule with, because they explain things to you in a way that you understand. They're patient, they know your medical history, they're part of your team. It is your financial advisor. It is your waiver case manager. It is all of these other folks who we go to in this area of life to help us. And try it, right? Get these ideas down on paper. If it's something like supported decision-making or a power of attorney, you can be up and using this, and as long as it takes you to fill out some documents, right? There are examples of supported decision-making plans we'll talk through, but they're really just meant to guide you to get these ideas on paper and determine, okay, in the medical realm, here's who's going to help me. Here's how they're going to do it. Do we need a tool for this? Like a power of attorney, a HIPAA release, so that we can go in and get those notifications? Great, we'll set those up. What about in the education realm? Do we need a tool for this? Again, is that a power of attorney? Is that me just going to the classroom? Is that me being jointly notified on all the bajillion school apps and all those kinds of things? Great, let's get that set up. And then over time, you're going to adjust it. Ideally, we would see as people further grow into adulthood, as they're given chances to make and implement choices, as their brains grow and develop, as they experience things with peers, skills begin to grow. And one of my favorite parts of working at the Arc of Northern Virginia over so many years is having families come to us and say, you know, my adult son on the spectrum moved into his own apartment, and I was so nervous because at home, I still do all of the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the everything. And oh my golly, in his own apartment, It's very different. I'm blown away. He has agency. He wants to be part of folding. He is online picking out recipes that he likes. He wants to go to the grocery store for the first time. It's different when we are treated like adults and given the chance to make some of those adult decisions. So ideally, over time, this plan would adjust because the person may need fewer supports or those supports could look different. Of course, all of us every single day are aging. So maybe over the time, this plan changes because the person is aging and needs more supports, has an accident or an illness that necessitate more kinds of care. Okay, well, we'll keep flexing with that, right? None of us are going to stay the way that we are today for the rest of our lives. So all those kinds of documents that we have for ourselves, wills, powers of attorney, long-term plans, we know they're going to have to flex. That's all right. Okay, so to get you going and thinking, there's an article from a mom named Suzanne Francisco called Setting the Wheels in Motion. She's a mom to 3 adult people with developmental disabilities, and it's a story and a functional worksheet on how she, as a parent for people who had very different needs, came to the decision that for all of her children, supported decision making was the concept she wanted to use, but it was going to look really different for each of them because they had wildly different support needs and strengths. And so it's her journey and then the sheets that she used to get those ideas on paper. And I think it's a fabulous parent to parent perspective. I would say, as you go through and sit down with this, meet with other folks you trust. As parents, we have unobjective viewpoints on our children, if they are children, or adult children, right? Get input from someone else who knows them well. Sometimes that's a sibling or another family member, family friend who can say, actually, I've seen them do this fine. Or actually, that is more of a challenge for them that you're making it out, right? Get some balanced perspective there. That when do I want support document that I mentioned from the ACLU is great to just get ideas on paper. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can sit down at your kitchen table and fill out in an afternoon and just get ideas out there. And I have never met someone in many years of doing this who didn't say, oh, we already have a lot more people helping us and on our team than we realized. You may still need more. You may realize in these areas of life, we don't have as many people as I want and trust to help guide me through this. Absolutely. Then put those goggles on and say, I'm going to start looking for those kinds of folks out in the world. I'm going to ask others in our network, in our neighborhood, if they have a OBGYN, a financial planner, a special ed advocate, or whatever it is that they really know and trust. And we're going to add them to the team. But usually once we get those ideas on paper, it's way less scary. We see we have a bigger team than we expected. We see that we're lots of tools to get where we need to go. And I always say, try and look for a balance of paid and unpaid supporters. We've mentioned a lot of those paid supporters during this call. It's doctors or nurses, someone's manager at work, their retirement investment savings people, your family's financial advisor, whoever that is, because there's always going to be someone in that role. And part of the job of this person's supported decision-making team, life support team, is going to be that they know someone's always in that role and that person can offer thoughtful professional opinions on how to make sure we're meeting the needs of the person with a disability. All right. So at our website, thearcofnova.org/SDM, acronym for supported decision making, all of these are linked and more, but it will walk you through examples of supported decision making agreements. There's one there at the bottom that Virginia state government, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, that's the agency that oversees waivers and DD care and mental health and substance use, put out. It's not like a legally binding document. Again, this is a plan. It's getting your ideas on paper and figuring out what tools you need, be they powers of attorney or trust or REPAs or whatever. But it's great. And a lot of input went into it, and it will really walk you through, here's everything that we want to get on paper. As a parent, you're going to feel really, really relieved to have that all out there and see that you have a lot more than you thought. Things are more complete than you thought. Things are workable. And because that's a document that came from the State Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, it's such a powerful tool when you go into things like waiver discussions and housing discussions and Medicaid discussions, because that guiding document came right from the source there. People tend to pay a lot of attention to it. Something else that I haven't mentioned yet today, the Disability Law Center of Virginia has free powers of attorney online. They can help with advanced directives also for free. Those documents that would say, for example, if I had something catastrophic happen medically, this is what I would want my coma care to be. Here's what I would want making those decisions, those sorts of things. Really great tools to help walk you through things. And there's also a book called Supported Decision Making by an author, Jonathan Martinez, who's an attorney who's worked really closely with us on supported decision making, and Peter Blanc, that I love because though it's written by attorneys, it's very much in layperson's language. It gives you a lot of really concrete examples of things that you can write into your supported decision making agreements that might make it work for you. So, for example, one of the things that really struck me in reading that book is they say, if the person with a disability wants and has some ability to write their own checks, but we need some checks and balances, no pun intended on that, you can say in that supported decision-making agreement, checks require 2 signatures, myself and the person with a disability, right? That's your tool for doing that. Other kinds of ways to make sure that person gets the support they need while maintaining as much independence and growing as many skills as possible. And there's just so many great ways to learn. Say, if you want to go dive right into it, that the bottom link here, the free supported decision-making agreement is great. Just fill it out and you're going to walk away with a plan that tells you, okay, we're going to start doing all this stuff. We know what we've got in our court now. If you have heard this and you've thought, I really don't feel like we have an effective way to communicate with the person with a disability, getting information in and getting information back out, we're going to have to pursue guardianship. Absolutely, you can. Here's some attorneys in this area that do it. It's not a wildly long process. Generally, you'll meet with the attorney, you, the person with a disability. You'll share some of the paperwork and diagnosis about their needs, showing that they really, even with accommodations and supports, can't make decisions. That attorney files some paperwork with the court. The court sends out a second lawyer, not your lawyer, the court's lawyer, to say, I agree. This person does need significant supports with decision making. I agree the proposed guardians are a good fit. I agree with this decision. They file that with the judge. Usually this process, because you're paying for the time of an attorney by the hour, costs $3,000 to $4,000-ish. If it goes easily and smoothly, it could be more or less. And then you want to make sure that you've got standby guardians, people who are able to take over when their regular guardian is no longer able to, if the person with the disability outlives them. And I want to mention again that this is permanent. The guardianship appointment is permanent unless you went back to court and got them to reverse the decision, which can be done, but is not an easy way to go. So all kinds of best practices say our plan here is to start off with the least restrictive options, and as we need them, layer in more. And it's a lot easier to move in that direction than it is to start off with a very heavy-handed option and step down. I'm happy to take questions if anyone has them. We get all kinds of questions, so I won't read your name aloud if you ask a question, and feel free to ask anything, even if it seems strange or odd or embarrassing. These legal authority things can be real prickly to talk through. And if you've heard some stuff today that got you thinking and you think, I want to share this with someone else, or I don't want to ask my question right now, that's okay too. Again, the arcofnova.org/answers, and you can send questions to us. We can say, oh, here's some things I would consider, or here's some examples, or here's where I would look, or here's some advice, or all those kinds of things that we're there to help with. We love to do that sort of work. Thank you all for joining us today. And then we look forward to meeting up with you in webinars and email land, anywhere else in the future. Stay well.